Guys, what is up? I've been trying to come up with a good story or something because I haven't done a story in a while. And I had a story in mind, but then I looked at my YouTube channel and I was like, I think I've already done this story. And if you guys have followed me for a long time, I didn't want to repeat the same story. Be like, oh my God, I'm looking forward to her story. I mean, I already heard that one. So I'll post that one so you guys could hear it because it was like a kind of a ghost story, but not really. So I'm like, I need to come up with something similar because of Halloween. So vamos a ver. So I have a story, and this actually happened to me 2 years ago. So I'm going to get right to it just to cut all the extra stuff that we don't need to know about. I moved to Daytona 2 years ago. Okay, this was all happening like the beginning of 2018. And the reason I was in Daytona Beach was because of work purposes. Okay, it was just all because of work. Anyways, I found this really nice place. It was like a small house. It was 2-bedroom. I was like, oh my God, it's perfect because if my family comes over, I can have an extra bedroom for them, whatever. And it was in such a great location. I mean, I had like Krispy Kreme next to me. I had all the Starbucks, all the Dunkin' Donuts, all the restaurants. Like, if you're familiar with Daytona, you guys know where the NASCAR is. I was like 10 minutes from that place. So I was 20 minutes from work, which meant I was 20 minutes from the beach. So for the price that I got, for the location that it was at, I'm like, bro, esto está tremendo. I'm sold. Let me sign the lease. I am good. Anyways, I finally settled in, and about 2 days in, I'm actually cooking in the kitchen. And I remember seeing like a little roach in the kitchen, just walking, whatever, walking, crawling. And I killed it. Not a big deal. I'm a really relaxed person. I just feel like it's Florida. There's bugs everywhere. I've seen bugs in places that I never thought I would ever see bugs. So one roach is not going to bother me. So now la mate, because okay, I swept that up, kept cooking. But then I kept seeing more little roaches, and I'm like, espérate. One is okay. I'm okay with one because it probably got in from the outside. But this is the kitchen, and this is where people eat. And if I have somebody come over, I need to fix this. So I called the landlady, and I'm like, hey, listen, I seem to be having like a little bug problem. And she's all like, oh, but there was no bugs when I showed you the place. And I was like, no, I totally understand that. But I'm letting you know that there's roaches now. So what can be done about this? So now we settled into like sometime that week. She was going to have somebody come in, and she asked me, do I have to be there for her to send someone? And I'm like, no, because on my days off, I visit my parents. Plus I also work. So send them whenever, just get these bugs out of my house. Supposedly she was going to come in that week. I go visit my parents. I have a great time. I come back home. And okay, so something about me, guys, I've lived by myself before. I'm a very, very independent person. I can travel by myself. I can stay in hotels by myself. I can live by myself. I'm by myself right now, and Stephanie's at work, and I'm doing this story in the little puntita of the stairs in my house. Like, yo vivo bien tranquila. But when I live by myself, there's something that I do, and I leave all the doors open. Everything in my house, okay, just because, I watch a lot of crime shows, and if you're a person that watches a lot of crime shows, you kind of tend to pick up on a couple of things throughout the year. So, I'm not really scared of a lot of things, but I also know how to be cautious. So one thing that I do is I leave all the doors open. Why? Because women are organized, and women always like for everything to be closed. But what happens is that when you leave everything closed, that's when the serial killers and the killers come in, because they figure out places to hide. All jokes aside, that is a fact, okay? So if you live by yourself, if you're a boy or a girl, just leave all your doors open. Or, if you have a pantry door, your closet doors, your bathroom doors, just leave all the doors that you have in your house, just leave them open. I don't know. I don't know. I heard that somewhere. I don't know what documentary it was, but ever since that day, I've lived by it. Here, I'm a little bit, I guess I feel really safe here because I be leaving things closed, and I'm like, okay, but there's one place and one thing that I always leave to view. It is the bathroom. So with that being said, anytime I shower, guys, I'm 37 years old. I have done this since I can remember, whether I lived at home or lived with someone or lived by myself, I always leave the shower curtain open. That is just something it is a known fact about me. I shower, I get out, open the curtain. I don't ever go back to close it. I always purposely leave it open. Why? Because the killers go in there. I had to put my hair up, porque tú sabes. So anyways, guys, I watch a lot of horror movies. Okay, those are my favorite. I watch any and every horror movie. And if you watch all the horror movies, all the killers are always in the bathroom. You just go in there to do your business, and then this dude comes out with a big old knife, and then he kills you, and then you're like, I would hate to die in the bathroom. Like, please, God, don't let me die in the bathroom. Okay, so I walked into my place, and, when you walk into your place, como que tú sabes if somebody's been in there. Kind of like the Three Bears, what is it, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Like, somebody's been sleeping in my bed, somebody's been eating my porridge. I didn't feel anything. Like, my place still smelled really nice. I would have thought that it would have smelled like whatever they used to kill the roaches. I'm walking, and I'm like, Nobody was in here. Like, I don't see nothing out of place. Like, usually somebody will move something to kill a roach. And I'm like, nobody was in here. So obviously the roach situation was not taken care of. It was pretty obvious that nobody had came in and like nobody took care of the roach situation. So I texted the landlady again and I told her the situation. This landlady tells me, well, we've already gone. We've already done our part. Now it's up to you. And I'm like, I was like, listen, I don't be like moving out a lot like that, but I'm pretty sure, I was like, to my understanding, I think that she was supposed to take care of that. But at this point, I just wanted the bug problem to go away. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pay for it myself because I'm not trying to argue with this lady back and forth. So I go to work and I actually told my coworker, and my coworker is more mad than me. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I used to rent properties. She's like, when you rent from an apartment, she's like, it's different. Apartments have different rules or whatever the case. She's like, but when you're actually renting a private home, she's like, she is the owner. She's supposed to take care of everything unless written differently in that contract, which is, I don't think it was. She's like, it's not like you brought the roaches with you. She's like, she's supposed to take care of that for you. Anyways, y'all be thinking that this story is about roaches, right? No. This is part 2. Okay. So part 2 is that I get home that day after the whole roach situation. I go in, open the door, I walk into my house. This is when it starts getting crazy. I am literally in the front of my door. And I'm just like, somebody's been in here. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. No sé. It was just this feeling. And I'm just like, ahora sí. And it was just, I don't know. It was like un inquieto. I don't know how to explain it, guys. I just really felt, I was like, either somebody's still in here or somebody's been in here. But I just felt a whole weird presence in that place. And I'm like, no, I was like, I'm not crazy. Somebody's been in here. So I start rocking really slowly because I'm like, all right, if this person is still in here, I have to be smart, right? So I go and I put my keys down really slowly. Keys down, que sí, okay? And I'm like, all right. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, pero pues está bien. So I keep walking. And remember, all the doors in my house are open. So I go to the first room. There's nothing there. I don't feel nothing there. Everything is there. Nothing looks out of place. I go to the kitchen. Nothing. Now I got to go to my room. So I'm in my room. I'm checking. I see, okay. I'm like, all right. Check the bathroom. Check everything. I was like, all right. Man, I'm just probably crazy or whatever. I think I had plans that day. So I'm getting dressed. And before I go, I always drink a lot of water. So I'm like a little kid. I'm like, well, let me go to the bathroom before I go. Pues nada, estoy ahí, que sí, okay. I'm dramatizing as I speak the story. Pues nada, me siento ahí, tú sabes, I'm about to do my business. And I lean back or whatever, and I look to the side, and the freaking shower curtain is closed. I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. Something about me, which is weird. I'm not easily scared, but I'm easily startled, which is so weird. Yesterday, Arielis was here, and freaking my Stephanie was doing laundry. Y cada rato the laundry thing would go off, and it makes a loud noise. It goes, eh. And every time it would do that, I would jump. Ay, Dios mío. I'm easily startled. But when it comes to easily scared, I'm not. Like, I'm honestly, and it's like good and bad at the same time because I'm not scared. I can do a lot of things by myself. I can live by myself. I can travel by myself. I can go anywhere by myself. I don't get scared. The bad thing about that is I honestly think that I'm like immortal. I be getting myself into situations because I always think that I'm never going to die. Like, so that's peligroso, but not for me. But in this moment, and I'm not trying to sound like a baddie, I'm just being honest. But when I tell you guys that when I sat on that toilet and I saw the curtain closed and knowing the way I am, I'm like, somebody's in there. Somebody's in there because I didn't close the curtain. I never closed the curtain. Anyways, guys, my mentor called me that I wasn't going to leave you guys hanging on the story. So anyways, I'm just sitting there. I look at the curtain and I'm just like, the one time that I do not have my phone with me because I left the phone in the kitchen. So I couldn't call 911. I couldn't make any sudden movements. From all the crime stuff that I watch, I was like, if I get up and start running, he's going to get up behind me. I already knew I was going to die. Like, I'm not being funny. I'm not joking. I already knew it because I'm like, if he was just going to rob me, he would have robbed and left. The fact that he's waiting there for me, he's going to hurt me. He's gonna do something. And I'm just like, so I started to pray. And I just was like, okay, God, I just want closure for my family. Whatever happens to me, I want this guy to be caught, and I just, please let my family know that that I love him, and, whatever. I'm not joking. Like, that's literally me. And I'm just like, all right. But I had to get up and see what was in there, because I was like, I know I'm not crazy. I know I always close the curtain. So I get up very, very slowly. And I'm just like, I could either run or I can open the curtain. Now that's so, I'm trying to be brave. And I'm like, all right, I already accepted the fact that I was going to die. Where my soul was going to go, yo no sabía, but I had already made my peace with the Lord. And I'm like, all right, I'm about to open this. And bien película, I don't know if Psycho was going to be back there, Michael Myers, somebody was back there. And I go and I'm like, I'm trying to hear if I can hear somebody breathing too. And I was like, all right, so I go, nobody was in there. I'm like, when I tell you guys, when I gasped for breath or for air, however you want to say it, it was like, because I was so happy that nobody was in there. Like, I really just, it was like a moment of relief. I've never experienced that in my life. Like, it was like you really knew you were going to die and then you lived, and it was like, yeah. And I breathed really loud, and I think I started crying, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's just a long time ago that I think about it. No, I don't think I cried. I don't think it was that serious. I was just really happy that I was too in shock to cry. But nada, y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell my parents. I was like, if I tell my mom and dad this, they're gonna freak out. They're not gonna sleep. I'm not gonna tell my sisters. That's another thing, because I'm immortal. I never tell anybody anything. I be handling all these crazy things all by myself, and I never tell nobody. But nada, I checked the rest of the house. Everything was good, but at the end of the day, I'm like, a mí no me quita que somebody was in here. But then I really thought about it, and then I kept messing with the curtain. I kept literally trying to relive the morning. Like, okay, I showered, I got out, maybe I closed it, maybe I went back, okay, maybe. So in my mind, I was like, you know what, Biggie? Probably it was you, and you done scared yourself to death. Y tanta cosa, it was probably you. So I'm like, all right, went back to sleep in the same place. Y nada. And I went back to work the next day like nothing. So I'm at work, and my coworker is asking me about the roaches. And I'm like, oh, girl, espérate, I got a new problem. I was like, I don't think I have roaches, but I think I have a killer. I'm making jokes because, guys, when I deal with things, I'm a comedian. So, like, comedy or jokes is it's my defense mechanism. It's how I handle things. So I told her the story. Y esta mujer, she's more scared than me. She's like, how did you even go back to sleep there? Oh my God. I would have this, I would have that, I would have this. Anyway, so like I said, she was freaking out more than me. So she was so sweet. And she actually brought me the next day. I don't know what it's called, guys. I lost it in my house. Google it, find it on Amazon. I don't know. It's this really cool thing. You put it right under your door. It was like probably this big, this long. It looked like a Lego piece, and you actually put it under your door. So if someone actually opened your door, there was a battery inside, you would turn it on, and it was like a little alarm. But when I tell you that thing was loud, it was very loud. So I actually felt safe. I was like, man, that's actually really cool. I thought that was super sweet of her. So I put it. It's funny because I had so much problems in this place. So I put it, and I felt safe. I was like, ain't nobody gonna try to get in through the door now, because if he tries to open it, that makes a loud noise. It's gonna wake me up, and that's fine. So I started sleeping with that on the door. So then, so now I had the roach situation and the serial killer situation. I still had the roaches. And then another day I come home, and guess what? I have that same feeling again. This time, guys, I've been living in this place almost 3 weeks, and it's 3 weeks of hell. I feel like this place has just been a curse, not plaga in my house, because the whole kitchen, I was infested with roaches. And not only the kitchen, but when you open the refrigerator, they actually got into the freezer and the refrigerator. So now my food was getting messed up, and I'm not liking how this landlady is handling everything. And I'm just like, wow, este lugar ha sido. So then I walk into this place, and I'm like, again, I have that feeling. I'm like, somebody has been in this house. So I'm like, all right. So I leave the keys really slowly, and I'm like, I'm going to skip everything. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. I just got home from work, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go straight to the shower, because at this point I'm just so mad that even the killer, I'm like, mira, tú sabes qué? I was like, I'm more mad at the landlady than you right now. So I get to the bathroom, and all jokes aside, I get there, and the freaking curtain is closed again. I was like, you have got to be kidding me right now. So I stand there maybe about 5 seconds, and I just go, and I open it. There's nobody inside. Reason that at that point I opened the curtain so fast, I just walked in there, I opened it, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this, is because of all the adrenaline. I was so upset at that moment that I wasn't thinking. I could have messed, I mean, maybe there would have been somebody in there, and I don't know, we would have just fought or whatever the case may be, because ya yo estaba, like, I was just so upset at the time that when you're upset, when I'm mad, I block out. I don't care. I'll take on a killer. Anyway, so what happened was that I usually shower at around 7. Take about a 30-minute shower. So, you're talking about 7:30. I got home around 2. Why is there water in my shower? So when I opened the door, when I opened the curtain, all you heard was, it was water dripping. And I'm like, why is there water dripping when I haven't been home in hours? That should have been dry by now. So what it led me to believe, or led me to know, is that somebody had just showered in here. And at that point, I was like, no, I'm gonna call the landlady. This has got to go. Like I can't live here anymore. So I called the landlady and I'm like, listen, has somebody been here? Has somebody showered? Because I just got home. I explained to her the situation. I then talked to her about the roach situation. The landlady is just awful. She's like, what are you talking about? Nobody's been in there. She's like, and I told you about the roach situation. You have to figure that out yourself, because I already sent somebody. So literally while she's talking, I'm like, you know what? I hung up on her. And I never hung up on people. Obviously, that's my landlady. I would never do that. But I was like, yo, I'm not getting no type of help. So then I call my coworker, and I'm still at the house, and I'm still just trying to figure stuff out because I'm upset. And I'm like, what am I going to tell my parents? How am I going to get out of this? Like, it was one of those things that I was like, Biggie, calm down, because you're just so upset right now. I got up the table. I'm about to fight somebody, and just thinking about how upset I was that day. So I called my coworker, and I was like, you know what? This girl has been helping me this whole time, and I hate to bother her, but she'll probably have like some type of help that can get me out of this situation. Because when I called my coworker, we're just gonna call her Susie. So I called Susie, and I told her the situation. I mean, she was so like, she's like, oh my God, this is what you gotta do, Abby. Pack your stuff. Pack everything, get out of that house. It sounded like a horror movie when people are like, when the killer is there, and then they're like, that's how it sounded like. But she was so worried. And she's like, I'm not kidding. She's like, Abby, if you tell me that you slept there one more night, she's like, I'm gonna kill you myself. She's like, pack your stuff and leave. She's like, you need to get out of that house. She's like, I will figure something out. She's like, I got you. Just get out of that house, like right now. She's like, I think that she's probably lending it, like telling, because it was kind of like a duplex. So she thought, to her thought was that probably the people next door that she also rented to were like somehow getting into the house using my shower. But I'm like, how are they getting in? I'm trying to figure out how these people are trying to get in, but there's probably a secret passageway or something that I didn't know about. But either way, I got out of the house. Anyways, I didn't really have a lot of things, so I could fit the majority of everything that I have moved in there in my car. But I have like a little 2017 Corolla, so it's not a, I put a lot of things in there, but I still needed a few boxes. And I'm like, well, I was like, Susie, I'm still gonna have to come back tomorrow to get the rest of my stuff. And she's like, okay, so don't text the landlady, don't do anything, don't let her know that you left yet, but just leave everything else packed, and when you go get it tomorrow, she's like, I'll have a plan, we'll figure something out. Oh, Susie was not playing. Like, she had a plan the next day. When I got home, I told my parents that I just had a roach problem. I left the killer part out because I wanted my parents to get to sleep, right? So the next day, after work, Susie was like, okay, listen, let's go get the rest of your stuff. That way we can make sure that nothing of yours is in there before we send this lady this text. And I'm like, okay, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just going to be like, hey, listen, I want to leave. So I'm like, Susie, how am I going to get out of this lease? I lost my deposit. I paid for this month and it was just horrible. And she's like, oh no, we're going to get your deposit back. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I was like, I don't even think we're going to be able to break out of this lease. And if I break out of this lease, it's probably going to mess up my credit. It's just going to be a headache. And she's like, honey, she's like, I'm going to send you a text message. And when you send this text message to her, you're going to copy and paste it the same way I'm sending it to you. She's like, don't change anything of it. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I stayed up. It took her about 2 hours to come up with this text message. And I'm like, okay, send it to me. When she sends me this text message, this girl stayed up, just like getting all the statutes, all the terms, whatever you want to call it, between a landlord and a tenant, like all the laws. When I copied the text, okay, I was like, oh my God, Susie, I don't want to send her this text. She's like, send it. It was kind of like a lawyer. She was advocating for me as a lawyer. So it was like, dear Miss Landlady, whatever, per statute of the regulation of tenant versus landlord, blah, 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 blah. So she was putting putting in there that she did have to take care of the roach situation. Obviously, I had no proof to say that someone was there. I can't, I need proof to like actually show that. So we needed to base everything off the roaches. So that's why I was bringing up the roaches. Because guys, a última hora, you guys are making it seem, because I'm already seeing people in my DMs, oh my God, the roaches, this, you could have done this and this and that. Okay, first of all, you weren't there. Second of all, finish my story before you want to give me roach advice, because I'm not leaving because of roaches. That's easily something that could have been taken care of easily. I'm leaving because of the person that kept using my shower. So yeah, let's make sure you finish the story before I get roach advice. Yeah. So we had to use the roaches as an excuse for us to leave. Because she didn't live there with me, for me to leave. So that was like what we held on to that. So that's what the whole text message was based on. Like, oh, you broke the laws because of this and this and that. And what we're going to do is, because as a landlord, since you don't want to take care of the situation, as per law, under regulation, statute 24, whatever, I can actually break the lease and I'm entitled to my deposit back. And I'm like, holy moly. I was like, are you serious? And she's like, send it. And then she was like, I will be there this afternoon at 6:00 to collect my deposit, to sign, to break the lease. And I'll be there with my lawyer. And I'm like, wait, lawyer? She's like, I'm going to be your lawyer. I'm like, wait, what? Not gonna lie, at that point I'm like, Susie, no, I don't want to mess with this, because what if she knows her laws? And she's like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. She's like, let's see what she texts back. So I sent her the text message. I want to say we just kind of waited in the car. It probably took that lady like 20 minutes to text. It was probably about 4 p.m. It took that lady 20 minutes to be like, okay, I understand. I will meet you at 6:00. And she's like, I will also come with my husband. And we started laughing, because she's like, what is her husband going to do? I'm your lawyer. And she's like, wait, we're going to make this even better. She's like, I'm going to call another friend of mine, because the girl that was helping me out, she was so cool. Like I said, she was very successful. This girl drove a Porsche 911 Turbo, red. I mean, she looked like a freaking Barbie driving this car. So she was like, wait, she's like, I have another friend. He just bought a BMW and he's also successful and he works in Daytona. I'm going to tell him to meet me up too. So she freaking calls this guy and he comes as well. So hilarious when she's calling the guy, because the guy's like, wait, what do you want me to do? I mean, this is like a guy in like his freaking 40s, super successful, because I think he was a top realtor in Daytona. And she's like, come in your suit, because we're going to pretend we're lawyers. She's like, I need you in your suit because I'm in my work clothes. And then she's like, bring your new BMW. And he's like, okay, so bring my suit or whatever. And he's just going along with it. I'm like, okay. So when we're getting to the house, she's like, Abby, listen, you're going to park here. I'm going to park in the driveway and my friend is going to park behind me. We're not going to talk. You're going to do all the talking. We're going to be like in the background, kind of like your bodyguards. Like, it's just going to show that we're like your advocates. And I'm like, oh my God, this plan is going to fall apart. I was like, I'm going to go to jail. This is going to be fraud. I'm impersonating lawyers over here. I'm like, Dios mío, señor, all to break out of this lease. I'm gonna lie, I was really nervous about this plan. And I'm just like, bueno, señor, I was like, I don't know if this is considered any type of like manipulation, lying or whatever. But at the end of the day, I was like, God, you know my heart. I was like, I'm not safe there. There's something really crazy going on. This is a really bad landlady. I guess if this is the way we're going to go about it, this is the way we're going to go. So she parks her red Porsche freaking in the driveway. This guy parks his freaking brand new BMW M5, whatever series he had, but it was like the newest one because it was 2018 and he had a 2018 Beamer. So it's like two really expensive cars in this little house, like very humble house. And you see this girl coming out all dressed up. You see this guy dressed up in a suit. They walk off to the side and I'm walking towards the landlady. And I remember her husband walking with her and her husband actually goes, and he leaves and he sits in his car. And then the landlady's like, well, who's that? And I'm like, those are my lawyers. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, my friend was right. She really just went off to the background, like just to talk to the guy. So they're like in the corner, I don't know, probably talking about chilies and drinks, and I'm just, going with the landlady. And she's like, well, I just came here to make sure that everything is okay before I give you your deposit back. And I'm like, I cannot believe I'm getting my deposit back. This is insane to me. So I'm like, well, listen, I didn't do anything to the place. I'm going to actually show you the kitchen. I was like, look, so you can see. And I did open everything because I cleaned everything. I left in really good terms. I made sure that I cleaned everything, but I left the kitchen purposely with the roaches everywhere so she could see. And I started opening and I'm like, look, this is the refrigerator. This is the refreezer. This is this. I was like, this is what I was trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you that this is why I'm leaving. I was like, you're supposed to take care of this. And I feel like you were just very irresponsible. And she's like, no, I get it. I get it. She's like, let me just check the rest of the rooms. She checked everything and I'm just waiting there. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, I can't. I was like, I feel like something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. It's going to fall apart. And then she comes back with, I kid you not, we went to the kitchen, like dining area, and she pulls out wads of hundreds. And she's like, let's count it together. 1, 2, I got my $1,500 back. She made a whole new lease. And she's like, oh, I just want to make sure that you're not going to sue or anything like that. I was like, no, I just want to break out of the lease. I want to do everything right. I just wanted my deposit back. And that's it. And she's like, oh, so, no need to involve lawyers. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, no, it's okay. I was like, they just wanted to make sure that, this wasn't going to hurt my credit. And she's like, okay, so sign right here. So I signed it. I took copies of it. I got my deposit back. And she's like, okay. I walked out and I'm looking at Susie. I'm looking at the guy and she's like, we're good. And I'm like, we're good. And she's like, let's go. So we all just got in our cars, and then she was like, whoa, we're all yelling in the car. She's like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe this worked. This is crazy. So we ended up going to like, I don't know, some Chili's or some bar place around there. And I tell the guy, hey, listen, guys, thank you so much. I was so grateful. Like this guy was just like out of nowhere. Like he was the icing on the cake because he really looked like a lawyer. And then I'm like, guys, thank you so much. So I'm on the phone with Susie and I'm like, listen, I want to treat you guys. Let's just go to a bar or whatever the case. So we get to the bar and I'm like, when we walk in, I don't know, we're going to call the guy Bob. And I'm like, hey, Bob, I was like, listen, now that I got an extra $1,500 in my pocket, I want to buy you guys some drinks. And he's like, okay, he didn't really know the full story. So when we're drinking, he's like, wait a minute. He's like, that 15, he's like, I thought that was the month that you were going to pay. I was like, no, I only paid the month that I was there, but she canceled the lease and I got my deposit back. He's literally holding his drink and he's like, wait, you got your deposit back? I was like, yeah, that's what he's like. Oh my God. He's like, wait, you got her deposit back? And we were like, ah, we were cracking up because even he was like, how in the world? Because remember, he's a realtor. He's like, how in the world did you get her deposit back when she broke the lease? I don't know. But anyways, I got my deposit back. Guys, if there was any time in my life where somebody got me out of a jam and it's been very meaningful, it was Susie because of the fact that she was so successful. Guys, I remember one time I was writing with her pen and somebody at work was like, oh, that's a Mont Blanc, I don't know what. And her pen was $1,500. This girl always had $2,000, $3,000 shoes, $4,000, $5,000 purses, $5,000. She was engaged and her engagement ring was $50,000. That is what Susie Q was. And I remember asking her, like, why would you help me out of a jam? Like, I'm such a, like, no, I nobody, compared to her. And she's like, girl, she's like, I'm successful now, but I was dirt poor. Like, I was evicted from place to place. She's like, I know what it's like to have a roach problem and a rat problem and all that other stuff. And nobody ever want to help out. So she said, if I ever become successful, I'm definitely going to give back and help the little guy. She's like, because $1,500 for me may be nothing now. But she's like, but for you, I know it's the world. And I'm like, yeah, it is the world. She was always talking to me about the landlady too. She told me that she's like, you had that landlady once. She's like, I had that landlady my whole life. She's like, I know what it's like to have people like that. She was like a scam artist. She's like, I didn't like that. She's like, now that I'm sophisticated enough and educated enough to realize how to get out of these situations, I'm glad to help out. And I was like, nah, man, like, seriously, it changed my life. And it's good to be educated on stuff like that. So the moral of the story is, I guess if you ever get to that type of success, definitely help out the little guys because it'll pay off, because that definitely changed my life. And it made me see people with money a whole lot different. Like, they're not all the same. Just because you're successful doesn't mean that you just have to be a jerk. That's probably the nicest, kindest person that I've ever met in my whole life that had money. So, all right, guys, good night.